My favorite thing to use is lock. So this is how I do it, and my most comfortable way of showing people. While this has not been aligned by a machine, it still has some natural way of being attached to the other locks. Like there's a whole bunch of locks here. Like it would be like one section of the sheep. And so I'm just going to sort of hold it down like this, and you can see I've got all my fibers actually are vertical, but this hasn't been picked apart. This is straight off the sheep and washed, but it already has it like a natural way of moving, and I'm not going to add it in a horizontal fashion because then my fibers aren't aligned. I'm going to put it in a vertical fashion, okay? And my yarn's going to have texture. I want my yarn to have texture. So it's going to be a little bumpy, but I want that to be like that. Okay, the same thing. Now see, I'm just going to pull it. And I'm just going to inch it, and it's almost working like it is roving. Do you see? And the reason why it's kind of sticking like this to itself a little bit is because it has a lot of lanolin in it, still, even though it's been washed, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful to touch. It's got a lot of air. It's very lofty in there right now. It's not tight and overspun, but this is what I'm used to spinning with. So I'm just letting it pull. I'm just letting it pull itself apart, see? And I didn't even pick these locks. This is just like right off the sheep, like I said. And this, to me, is the best way to spin for my personal use because I don't have to have anything processed. I don't have to run it through the picker. I don't have to run it through a carder, but my yarn's still beautiful and it's unique and it has texture and vibrant colors, etc. You cannot do this with a short fleece though. You have to have a long fleece. You have to have a fleece at least 5 or 6 inches long to be able to do what I'm doing. And then you also want to have a fleece that's not you need a fleece with a lot of lanolin. You can't have like a really dry fleece. You want something like a Wensleydale or a Teeswater, border luster you could probably do this with, something like that. Okay, now I'm going to show you when I use mohair. This isn't what I do because mohair doesn't have lanolin. I actually have to run it through the picker. So an example of that would be this. Okay, so I have all these locks, these mohair locks, and they're probably not quite as long as I would like. Getting mohair to the length that I like, which is anywhere between 6 and 14 inches, is pretty hard. Because they don't have lanolin and it'll mat, and plus it's hard on the goat, it is really hard on them. So I don't like to get their fleeces too long. So anyway, this one's, I don't know, like this piece probably is like 4 or 5 inches. But this has been picked apart in the picker, that thing I was telling you about with the nails. And this is how I spin all my mohair. So here we go. So I'm going to let it, it's got to grab, I've got to let it grab on, so I did. And I'm going to do exactly what I was doing with the bats and the roving. And the beauty of mohair is you're going to leave, I purposefully leave these little ends because after I full my yarn, these will go back to being beautiful little curls. There will be little curlicues all over my yarn. And I let it grab hold here. And see, I'm just gently pulling, I'm just gently drafting. You have to draft everything. And actually the fibers, see, they are aligning. It's going in. And it's not going in the mid, it's not catching it like in the middle or sideways. This would be like a vertical piece just pulling out just like I did the wool, and it catches on itself and we just pull it down like this, and this is how it makes the yarn. And see, there's twist in here, so it's just traveling down, and I just keep opening it up. It's honestly, it's not hard. Just, you can't make it complicated. When people start talking about things like angles and you have to hold your hand this way and you have to hold your hand that way, I honestly think the best thing to do for people that are learning is to have someone teach you, then go home and practice and practice and practice and just keep making mistakes and give yourself the sensitivity and understanding that you're going to make mistakes instead of like clutching on for dear life and freaking out that you're ruining fiber. I got, I think, 2 pounds of Coriadel or something when I first started spinning, and I just knew it was going to be there for being ruined, and that was what its purpose in my life was. And I just sat there and spun and spun and spun and spun, and I was so frustrated and upset. But what it did is it gave me a really good foundation, and it also taught me that roving was never going to be something that I was going to want to spin because it wasn't fun. And the way it came out and looked, it just wasn't what I wanted. I wanted, like I said, I wanted to use something that had more texture and just was softer and had more luster, and so that's why I ended up with with mohair and Wensleydales, because they made it fun for me. They made it fun and easy. There's no messing around, and there's not the added cost of having them processed, etc. and I think the yarn is phenomenal. I think it makes beautiful yarn. So anyway, so these are my basic tips on beginning spinning. If you have any questions, you can always email me at littlelee@mac.com. You can find me on Ravelry, you can find me on Facebook, and I have a website, www.namastefarms.com. Thank you so much. Happy knitting and happy spinning.